Well, we want to expand conversations around energy as well as the maritime sector, also known as the blue economy. And we want to cross over to our city center studios, where we are now joined by the Principal Secretary of the Ministry of Maritime, and that is Nancy Kiragiti. Many thanks for joining us this afternoon. Wow. Afternoon, Nancy. Can you hear me from our city center studios?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Well, interesting times for Kenya's economy as we work towards boosting the revenues that we can tap from the blue economy or the maritime sector. Perhaps paint for us a picture of where we are as a country when it comes to the blue economy.
Oh, thank you very much. I think we can safely say that we've reached a stage where now the maritime sector, all the possibilities of the exploitation of the blue economy have taken center stage in our economic planning. We are talking of having taken pride of place as one of the 8 sectors that are of the economic pillar that are expected to drive Kenya's and increase Kenya's GDP into sustainable economic development. And that for us is a very exciting time. We are talking of now formulating the kind of policies and projects that will take us to the next level. When we talk of blue economy, we're talking of now realizing the potential of an area that has long lain dormant, yet with a lot of economic potential. And therefore, we're talking of diversifying our economy in terms of stopping the over-reliance of a few economic sectors and also increasing the GDP from our marine resources. We're talking of creating quality jobs for youth in terms of bridging the gap between high level of youth unemployment against the paradox of very few technically qualified, skills for the youth, as well as food security through exploitation of resources in the maritime sector. And for us now, this opens a whole new world of economic growth for a country that has been a maritime sector from very early days. And very exciting for us.
Very exciting times indeed. And Nancy, picking up from your sentiments, right now Kenya did implement the insurance policy where any cargo coming through the maritime, actually coming through the sea, has to pay insurance here in Kenya. Perhaps talk to us about how the insurance business has picked up when it comes to maritime.
Well, that's one of the areas when you talk of blue growth, that is exploiting the economic opportunities in the maritime sector. That's one of the low-hanging fruits that we identified very early on. And this presents an opportunity to conserve foreign exchange in terms of retention of foreign exchange component of our export-imports into this country. And this was implemented at the beginning of last year. It's been an exciting journey, a lot of discoveries, and a lot of knowledge gathering in the process. While we've been able within the first 8 months to see the realization and retention of up to $1.9 billion, it's still a journey in progress because what a lot of us have not appreciated is that the maritime sector grows when you look at it in terms of clusters, in terms of various components of the economy, of the maritime economy, cross-pollinating and feeding into each other. So we're looking at expanding that space through growth of areas like shipping, when we are able to develop our own capacity for maritime transport. Then, of course, that increases the space even further. And also the development of other policies like what we have seen in the aviation industry, having policies that support Kenya Airways as the national carrier. So all that feeds into the growth and development of the, as we say, the marine insurance and also other components of the maritime sector. So, and also realignment of various sector policies that we have. One of the issues that we're grappling with, or well, let me not say grappling with, we're looking to address is having a coherent national maritime policy, which calls for integrating various components of the maritime sector policies into one integrated process that then feeds into the growth of the sector. We're talking of policies that have, cross-cutting issues that are straddling different areas of the government or in terms of the maritime policy, public policy space. And therefore, when you bring them into integration, into coherence, yes, then you're able to reap from particular marine policies. And that's why we are saying that, because all of them cross-pollinate, affect one another, is finding areas through integration where we can reap the most benefits by integrating various issues. And we've realized that some of those will feed into maybe the finance space, the insurance space, and therefore developing the sector as a whole in a coherent manner.
And finally, there's also the IMO audit that is scheduled for May this year. Perhaps just walk us through how significant is this, as well as the IMO training?
Oh, okay. In terms of maritime policies and maritime activities, you realize that 60% of ocean space is not under national jurisdiction, and therefore it called for international sectors, international players, based on the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, coming together to form various institutions, various policies overarching that then make sure that the human players in that space are working together in a way that is then feeding into sustainable development of the ocean. And therefore, IMO is one of the creators of UNCLOS, or the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, takes center stage in terms of regulation of maritime space and in terms of shipping and prevention of the marine environment. Marine pollution and conservation of the marine environment. And as members of the IMO, as a country, we are partakers and we are contributors into that kind of ocean governance. And therefore, there's obligations that as a country we have to do. And that's why we've created national institutions to look into this space. And for us as a country, our obligation, or it's imperative that we are in line with those international conventions. That's much like we have seen in the aviation sector. That happens a lot, and therefore this is no different. But of course, we are conscious of what our obligations are, and of course we've been doing that. That's why we are whitelisted. That's why in terms of being in the good books we are, and we don't see any problem with the process that we are undertaking, or that's finally going to get us there. In 2015, we had an audit on our maritime training, because that is periodic. It happens every 5 years. We first got our whitelisting in 2010, and it was coming back for audit in 2015, December, so that we can be confirmed to still be on the whitelist. That audit was successful, and in December 2015, we were able to renew our credentials and also, find space again in the whitelist, so that our maritime education has now been accredited by the International Maritime Organization in line with the relevant conventions, and that's a credit that we wish to keep going forward. And of course, we are still improving that space and doing better improvements. You saw the other day we signed MOU with Panama. That's part of the accreditation process, or it's part of our confidence in our maritime education, because that then means that our students are able to find opportunities so that they are able to be accredited and to be able to continue and further their training. We are exploring various other MOUs with other countries in order to increase this pace. So it's an ongoing journey, and we have to keep on making sure that we are in tandem and we are doing what it takes in line with our international obligations. So yes, we are very conscious of what we need to do, what we need to comply with the international obligations that come with our memberships, into these international maritime governance bodies like the IMO, also the International Labour Organization, and others.
All right. And just a last question, what's your forecast for the maritime sector from a point of generating revenue for Kenya?
Generating revenue, that's what we are talking about in terms of developing our blue economy. Blue growth basically means economic use of ocean spaces and in a sustainable manner. And what I've said, some of the things we are doing is bringing coherence. Some of the projects we've lined up one of them is to undertake a maritime spatial plan in the same manner that we have policies and plans on a terrestrial level, then finding the same basis in the ocean space so that we manage competing demand and uses for the sea. As you are aware, we've got various activities that are expected to be undertaken as we go into diversification of the economic sectors based on the blue economy. We're talking of demand for space for maritime infrastructure, the one that enables economic exploitation of the ocean space. You're talking of fishing activities. You're talking of extraction of other natural, raw materials from the sea. You're talking of shipping or maritime transport activities. And all that, in order to bring coherence, then we need to have a plan that guides the development. So one of the key things we are going to do is develop the maritime spatial plan. Great. Then the other issue is having an integrated national maritime policy that brings coherence and enables trade-offs between various sectors in order to bring the areas where there is a lot of gain into the economy into focus. Then, of course, we're talking capacity building, which this is a unique area. And like we've observed, and what is guiding us is, in order to address some of the youth unemployment, is to come up with a very detailed, which we're working on, detailed and very robust capacity building program that engages the youth from an early age. The maritime sector is one area where you can create quality jobs from at all levels, meaning the low, the medium, and the highly trained sectors. And these for us are areas that will then enable employment, not just in this country. Of course, we'll be also targeting building the capacity that will enable us develop our economy, blue economy, but also being able to enable the youth to seek employment out of this country, quality employment. And of course, that feeds into the economy and as well as opens space for investments into the sector. That's one of the issues that our policy documents, the two that I've mentioned, will help us, because it brings transparency, level playing field, also clarity and clarity of the rules that the investor will need, and therefore gives confidence that the kind of investments they're making in the sector makes sense for them, and of course also for our economy.
Okay, thank you, PS. Thank you, PS. We appreciate the insights, and fortunately we've run out of time. We'll make an effort to invite you once more in the coming days. That is